9:03 on Tuesday, January 21st. We are at 12 degrees. Bitterly cold today, a chance of snow. Good morning. I'm Michelle Bash.
And I'm John Aaron. The top local story we're following this hour is the weather. It is a very cold start to your Tuesday with temperatures in the teens in many places right now. Here is 7 News First Alert meteorologist Brian Vandegraff.
Later this afternoon, some flurries possible. Today versus yesterday, a very similar feel. However, today we're going to have a few more clouds around. So with that added cloud cover, I do think that'll make it feel just a little bit chillier. Winds maybe not quite as strong, but when temperatures just don't move that much, even the slightest of winds will make it feel colder.
And we'll have your full forecast coming up at 9:08.
On his first day back in the White House, President Trump pardoned and commuted cases for hundreds of people charged for storming the Capitol in 2021. Now, some of those people were released last night from the D.C. jail, as you may have just heard from CBS News.
Also, we have team coverage on other executive orders signed by the president yesterday, including one that requires federal employees to return to the office full-time and another instituting a federal hiring freeze. This morning, our Neil Augenstein is hearing some perspective on what this means for government workers in the area.
Keep in mind, more than 54% of all federal workers are already at work full-time. So the false narrative that the president and some people in Congress have been saying that only 6% of feds are at their desks is just kind of silly.
Jason Miller is the executive editor of our sister station Federal News Network on the return to office mandate.
What this will do is it gives the managers, the new political appointees, and there are many, kind of that ammo that says, look, the president says you need to come, so therefore you need to come. And I think that's really what has been missing, because the Biden administration is saying to the political appointees, you make the decision that's best for your agency. It's not that the Trump administration has taken that out, but they just are kind of pushing harder.
He says during the 90-day hiring freeze, people from the Office of Personnel Management, Budget, and the administrator of the new U.S. DOGE service will come up with a plan to reduce the size of the federal workforce through what they call efficiency improvements and attrition.
There are things that you can suggest to be more efficient, things that can change that you've always said, hey, this has bugged me for years.
Neil Augenstein, WTOP News.
I'm Alan Etter. Trump turned back nearly 80 executive orders signed by former President Biden. These include efforts in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion. He also signed an order establishing 2 biological sexes recognized by the United States. Another order categorizes drug cartels as terrorist organizations. He's pulling out of the Paris Climate Treaty, and he's started the process of withdrawing the U.S. from the World Health Organization. And the administration vows to end birthright citizenship in the U.S., despite broad legal consensus that the Constitution guarantees American citizenship to nearly everyone born on U.S. soil. Alan Etter, WTOP News.
Inauguration Day is over, but today is the National Prayer Service at Washington National Cathedral. It starts at 11 this morning. President Trump, Vice President J.D. Vance, and their families are invited, along with members of Congress and members of the incoming administration. The National Cathedral says the service will offer prayers of thanksgiving for our democracy and to seek God's guidance in the years ahead. The cathedral's doors will be closed to the public, but everyone is encouraged to stream the service online. Now, the first service to mark the peaceful transfer of power between administrations was held in 1933 with the election of Franklin D. Roosevelt.
Maryland Governor Wes Moore has signed a proclamation officially enshrining into the state's constitution an individual's fundamental right to reproductive freedom. The constitutional amendment was passed in November by more than 3/4 of Maryland voters. Moore says the amendment ensures future generations of Marylanders will have the same reproductive rights state residents have today, no matter who's in office. Meanwhile, a similar plan is moving ahead in Virginia. Last week, a proposed constitutional amendment was approved by the House of Delegates and a Senate committee. If the plan passes both chambers this year and again next year, it can go before voters in a statewide referendum in 2026.
Coming up here on WTOP.
Rates cut next week? What the markets say. I'm Jeff Laywell.
Traffic and weather in 30 seconds.